Geordie Journo's back here outside St James's Park. Jordan, there must be something to talk about, and since our last video, things have certainly kicked off in some respect. So, as always, like all our recent videos, we'll separate this into two parts. We'll talk about the pressing matters, which we'll get onto in a second, and then talk about, after the ad break, a transfer that we expect to go through very soon. So, let's kick things off. Alexander Isak, Hugo Ekitike, Newcastle United, Liverpool. What's going on? Is the big question. Because obviously Liverpool's interest in Alexander Isak long-standing. Liverpool's interest in Hugo Ekitike has been well documented as well. Newcastle's interest in Hugo Ekitike goes back to before they even signed Alexander Isak. And this week Newcastle made a move to sign Hugo Ekitike, and Liverpool have sort of went, no, we want Alexander Isak as well. So, what are you thinking about it all, Mr. Jordan Cook?
It's been a frantic start of the week. After a slow start, the transfer window, it's been quite the busy.
July's been fun actually, in a way.
Yeah, it's just been constant. So you start the week with the news of Newcastle reigniting interest in Hugo Ekitike. Everyone's excited, thinking, "Oh, Alexander Isak, Hugo Ekitike, what a strike partnership that would be." Bid rejected by Frankfurt. That was yesterday, Tuesday, and then all of a sudden, approach from Liverpool, which goes public as well. And then, by the sounds of it, as some places reported, Newcastle were given an ultimatum, pretty much by Liverpool: give us Alexander Isak, or we'll take Hugo Ekitike. So, how that plays out, I'm not sure. From the Alexander Isak point of view, I stand by it. I don't see why and how Newcastle will sell Alexander Isak. I think the player is absolutely key in this. I think if the player has to leave, which I don't think will happen, I think it's possible, because I think Liverpool, whether you like it or not, Liverpool are a big pull. Biggest club in England, in my opinion. Current Premier League champions. Was it 6 times Champions League, 5 times Champions League winners?
6 times, yeah.
Whether you like it or not, Liverpool are a big pull, and they're one of the clubs where I do fear in terms of when they come in for players. But from Newcastle United's perspective, they hold the key in this. It's their player. He's got 3 years left on his contract. He would command a massive British record fee.
Yes.
Newcastle hold the key, and it's and if Alexander Isak is happy here, which we believe he is, and he isn't trying to push for a move, I think Alexander Isak stays. And does that mean Liverpool go and target Hugo Ekitike and rival Newcastle in the Hugo Ekitike race? Possibly. There's conflicting reports on that. There's some suggesting that they aren't actually interested in Ekitike. There's some that obviously are. So how that plays out in terms of Ekitike, I'm not too sure. I think there's a lot of moving parts on that one. There's potentially probably moving parts in Isak, again, if the player has to leave. But at this moment, we're led to believe that he's happy here. He's not going to push for a move, and I think as if it stays that way, I don't think Alexander Isak leaves the football club.
No, that's certainly the message from Newcastle's side of things, and has been for a long time. No intent to sell Alexander Isak. My sort of caveat would be, how many times have we heard that before? We even heard it Nottingham Forest with Anthony Elanga, not for sale. He's a Newcastle player.
Yeah.
Andy Carroll, not for sale, went to Liverpool. Is history repeating itself?
I'm not sure, because I think with Nottingham Forest, obviously, I'm using the 2 examples. Nottingham Forest are in a different position to Newcastle, where Nottingham Forest are an ambitious football club, but they don't have Champions League football.
I'd say the disparity between Forest and Newcastle is similar to the disparity between Newcastle.
You're probably right. You're probably right.
More so, even.
Yeah. But the Andy Carroll point, again, under a different ownership, I think Newcastle and Yasser Ramadan always make this big point about how he's saying we want to be number one.
It sends the wrong message.
He does, and he's when he's lifting the Carabao Cup, he's saying more. This is the first one we're going to win more. I think to then go and sell your star striker 6 months later, I think is a terrible look.
His favourite player as well.
And I think it sends out the totally wrong message. So as I say, that's why I think the player is absolutely key in this.
He is, and I think getting tied down to a new deal, that's been a priority for a while, and it's sort of been put on the back burner, and it's sort of created a bit of confusion and uncertainty over Isak's future. Ultimately, I think Isak, while he's a high earner relative to Newcastle, he's not necessarily a high earner relative to his ability on the world stage. And you've got the likes of Liverpool who could offer him mega bucks more so than what Newcastle could. So I've got a bit of reservations about it all. I think the whole stories that have broke this week are it's caused a bit of a storm that isn't necessarily anything new. I mean, I remember reporting on Liverpool's interest in Alexander Isak all the way back in March, Liverpool's interest in Hugo Ekitike even the back end of last season. So the fact they're interested in both players isn't anything new. It's more the sort of move that it's all gone public this week. Which
I think it's deliberate. I think it's been leaked from the Liverpool end. I think it's been put out there through big journalists and Fabrizio Romano and David Ormsteen. I think it's deliberate to try and unsettle the player.
But is it the wisest move from Liverpool's perspective for it to all play out in public? Because all you're doing is going to Hugo Ekitike. You're a pawn in our pursuit of Alexander Isak. You are not our first choice striker. We're going to try and go for Alexander Isak. If not, you'll be our sort of second-rate signing. Whereas Newcastle go, we've been wanting you since before we even got Alexander Isak. Now we want you to play with Alexander Isak. That's Newcastle's stance, and I think that is this whole power play sort of narrative, which I think is a bit nonsense.
No, the powers
really.
of Newcastle.
It's pure semantics. Newcastle are in control of the situation. Liverpool are sort of powerless to a degree, but have a lot of pull and a lot of finances, and money ultimately talks. But in terms of who is actually making the decisions, nothing actually happens if Newcastle go to Liverpool. No, Isak's not for sale. Then it's up to Frankfurt and the whole Hugo Ekitike situation. So Liverpool have no actual say in the situation other than tabling offers.
The worst thing that can happen in this scenario is Newcastle lose out the player they never had. and that's fine.
The power play would be if Liverpool went, right, we're coming for Isak, and by the way, your top target Hugo Ekitike, we're coming for him too. The only club wanting both at this moment in time, as we understand it, is Newcastle United.
Yep. And I think that again is another level of ambition as well to do that. I think again before this Isak talk came in, I think everyone was really excited when the news broke on Monday to even think of the prospect of having those two. I think it would be incredible to have next season. You wouldn't have a drop off in the forward line.
No,
you would literally just have two players out, either play alongside each other or just rotate in and out.
Yeah,
with two players with very similar, maybe not similar ability, but they're definitely similar players, I would say.
Yeah.
In terms of stature and quite that lanky stature.
Yeah.
So look, whether that happens or not, remains to be seen. To say the worst case scenarios of Liverpool coming and take Hugo Ekitike and Newcastle keep Isak, that's fine. If I had to pick, and I'm not saying Newcastle have to do that, but if I had to pick, I would pick Alexander Isak Alexander Isak every day of the week. And I think that Newcastle's next step, regardless now, actually is to try and get this new contract tied down and show a player, because that's what you mentioned before about, I think he's one of the Newcastle's highest earners, but for his ability he needs to be on much more, and I think that needs to be recognised. There were suggestions they were going to open talks last summer. That didn't happen. I think this summer is key, because if he does stay, Newcastle have to show a level of ambition to try and tie him down a new contract, because I think in 12 months time, if he hasn't signed a new contract, they probably are having different conversations. To a player with 2 years left on his contract, do you then have to maximise his value and sell him that summer? But if he's under a new contract on a big wage, it's a totally different conversation.
That's when there's a power shift more towards the player. Like Isak can come out this summer and go, look, I want to join Liverpool. Newcastle can go, you're still under contract for 3 years. They have the control. Whereas next summer it becomes a different sort of situation. Values start to change slightly. It becomes a bit more fluid in the power shift comes more to the player, I think. But in Ekitike, if Newcastle were, a dream situation would be to have Ekitike and Isak, which may or may not happen. I think that's maybe less likely than just having one or the other. But that are future-proofing themselves in the eventuality if or when Alexander Isak leaves the club. Then you've got a striker already in the building who's young, has a really high ceiling, and is really sort of making his mark on the European stage as well. And Newcastle, it's sort of vindicated their initial scouting pursuit of Hugo Ekitike as a 19-year-old when he was in France, Stade de Reims, basically going, he could be the man. Didn't work out for him at PSG, but he's proven himself at Frankfurt. I think 22 goals, 12 assists. Brilliant. I mean, not as many goals as Alexander Isak in arguably a weaker league, but in terms of goal contributions, brilliant.
Feels like we're back in 2022 again. It's like the same group of strikers where it was João Pedro, Chelsea. Before that was
Newcastle.
That was Hugo
Actually,
Ekitike.
there hasn't been a fresh name on the Newcastle beat in a while, really, with real tangible sort of, this is a player they're interested in. James Trafford, Hugo Ekitike, Anthony Elanga, all players they've been interested in previously.
And that shows probably the level of scout that Newcastle did. Was, to be fair, like they identified Hugo Ekitike as a £25 million player before he snubbed them to go to PSG. Anthony Elanga's been a long chase. They always like the long-term targets and always seem to go back into them. They just obviously risk paying
a lot more
now. Let's see what happens with the Hugo Ekitike situation. I always felt it was a difficult one. I don't like the public nature of it. I've always,
the timing's interesting. That's what I'd say, and where the information's coming from, which can't disclose and things like that. But it's very interesting. It's not coming from there. That's all I'd say.
No, I think to leak the public nature of Newcastle United's negotiations and bid, again with the timing,
feels deliberate.
It does feel deliberate, and it feels like Newcastle United could potentially be being used as a pawn in a wider game,
which they have been before.
So look, the Hugo Ekitike situation, I don't know how that'll play out. I've got reservations. I do think it's a difficult one to do. If Liverpool do come in again, we're talking about the pull. He probably will go to Liverpool, but that hasn't been set in stone yet. We don't know if that's going to happen. But from an Alexander Isak point of view, I can only relay what we've been told by people high up the football club, is they do not want to lose him. That was the key message here from Darren Eales in March. There's been, Yasser Ramayan doesn't want to lose him. So for me, if you've got your top chief saying that they don't want to lose him, from a football club point of view, he doesn't go. It's just about the player and what happens with him. And at this moment, I don't see him pushing for a move. I think it's possible, but I just don't see him doing it.
It's quite a cool character, any Alexander. He's quite just reserved about everything, but we'll wait and see what happens. As for Hugo Ekitike, I'll always have my reservations about him, just because you go back to us as journalists, our first two transfer windows, you get told Hugo Ekitike is as good as done, bids accepted. Oh, this is a Hawaii. It's not. It's up the player pulls the plug, his agent pulls the plug. So until until he is with his shirt, like Anthony Elanga was last Friday, when they announced it at 8 o'clock on Friday night. But less said about that. Until that's the case, I won't be saying like this is an absolute goer, because we've been here before with Hugo Ekitike. And while Liverpool have that eye on the situation, look, like you've said before, Liverpool have a greater pull than Newcastle United at this moment in time, and historically always have. So let's almost know our place to a degree, but also back yourselves where going, no, we have Alexander Isak, you can't bully us with this Hugo Ekitike situation. But if you're Hugo Ekitike, Liverpool want you, Newcastle want you, you probably choose Liverpool.
I think that's fair. As I say, Newcastle are on a trajectory where they want to be top dogs, or one of the top dogs in the country and in Europe, but Liverpool have got a backlog of history. They've got a Premier League title. As much as I would like to sit here and say Newcastle United are a bigger pull than Liverpool, it's just not the case. I'd be lying to myself. I think Newcastle fans who say that as well would be lying to themselves. Liverpool are a far bigger football club. Didn't used to be. 50s. We'll go back to the 50s.
That's true, but Liverpool's success is 70s onward, since Newcastle's last major trophy before this year. What? Same amount of major trophies as Liverpool last year.
Exactly.
I'm taking the mix slightly, although it is factually correct.
So no, but if I had to come to a final conclusion or make a final prediction on Alexander Isak, I think he stays. I think he stays. But as I say, there's a lot of moving parts. This video could be out now, and there could be something different out there. It's just, we don't just say it to try and protect ourselves, but there is a lot of moving parts. Things can move very,
We're
very
not doing the deals. Ultimately, like Liam's said this in previous videos, like Elanga, we're told that's as good as done. I think 2 weeks later it finally gets done.
It was a long time.
It's things like that, and it's like, oh, will it or won't it? But we're not doing the deals. We can only relay what we're told, what we've heard, and we'll make it clear when we're offering our opinion. And that's your opinion. Based on what you hear.
I'm allowed one of those.
Yeah, of course you are. And yes, I just think Newcastle United have made a real play this week and sort of went, look, we want our top striker target, but we also want to keep Alexander Isak in fair play. That level of ambition is something that really excites me. Do I think they can do it? I'm really not sure.
Yeah.
But like you say, a worst case scenario, realistically, based on everything we're hearing, is Newcastle either keep their striker who is sort of lauded at the club, or they have Hugo Ekitike and Alexander Isak, which is an even better situation. So I think both situations, realistically, Alexander Isak stays at the football club. The only thing is if Liverpool really sort of blow Newcastle's socks off with a bid.
Yeah, I mean, I think, as I say, the approach being leaked at the start, I think that's dirty tactics by Liverpool. Who knows all the dirty tactics got to sleeve. They could try and get in the players here. That's why I think he is absolutely key to this. But as we record this now, I think he's happy here. So hopefully that means he stays. Newcastle didn't want to sell him, so and as long as Isak's happy, then you've got no reason to sell him.
Yeah, let's wait and see. First home game, Premier League season, Liverpool. Let's see who's playing for each team.
Yeah.
But on that note, I don't think we've offered too much clarity on the situation, but we've given our thoughts on it. As I say, it is a fluid situation, moving parts. Newcastle's stance is clear, Liverpool's stance is a little bit less clear. It's like, we'll go for this player, but maybe this player. But their ambition is certainly clear as well. And all in all, it's a very interesting transfer story that we'll try and stay on top of and bring you updates as and when they come over on the Shields Gazette and Newcastle World, as well as the Geordie Journals on YouTube. But on that note, we'll have an ad break and we'll get back to you with another Newcastle United transfer story. Comply IT Limited. Worrying about disposing of your old IT equipment? Don't be. Comply IT handle everything. Secure collection, detailed tracking, and certified data destruction. That's Comply IT Limited. Four Rivers Financial Planning. Four Rivers Financial Planning offer holistic financial advice for all stages of life, ensuring your plan remains robust and adaptable in the ever-changing world we live in. So yeah, those were our two sponsors. Links in the description below. And yeah, we've talked about transfers that may or may not happen. And we spoke about this transfer last week as well at this very spot. Sean Longstaff.
Yep.
Out the door. He's in Austria, or has been in Austria.
Yep. Leeds
United. Howie.
Oh, do that for, or do it for exits as well. Oh yeah.
It's not doesn't quite have the same ring. No.
But it is a significant deal, I would say, because it's pure profit in terms of PSR. The figures being reported £12 million plus £3 million in achievable add-ons for a player that's in the final year of his contract. Again, pure profit. I think that makes sense for all parties. I think it gives Newcastle United, which I'm sure we'll come on to, extra money to put into the budget.
Pays for Anthony Elanga at the very least, and then Lloyd Kelly, that money pays for maybe another player or two.
Yeah.
Without actually having to dip into your pre-existing funds. So,
as I know, with PSR player sales are key, and I do think Newcastle over the last 6 months, maybe with Lloyd Kelly and Miguel Almiron, that was a little bit forced in terms of having to do that, but they have started to show. That they are moving players on at the right time, if you like, and they never used to do that. They were always quite poor in terms of sales, whereas they seem to have improved a little bit on that. I've definitely improved on that over the last 6 months. So yeah, Sean Longstaff finally his contract. Last Premier League start in December it was, and 2 starts this year against lower league opposition in the FA Cup. It was a player that clearly fell down the pecking order. So yeah, it makes total sense. I think a fresh start for him down at Leeds. I think he's been, as I mentioned last week, I think he's been dying. I think he's been desperate for that. I think he's been desperate for a fresh start. I think he's not player that's cut frustrated for a long time now. So because I think he knows that his time has come to an end here, I think he's accepted that for a while. And I think Leeds is a great move for him. I think Leeds is a great football club, really passionate fans, playing at Ellen Road every week. I think it's a really good move for him. Different challenge, maybe the one he's faced over the last couple of seasons in terms of trying to stay in the Premier League, but not good luck to him. I think he always got an unnecessary amount of flack from supporters. I've always seen him as a local lad who tried his hardest, lived the dream, didn't he? Over 200 appearances, Carabao Cup winners medal. He'd done everything he really could here. So not good luck to him.
Yeah, I think people sort of when the £12 million bid came in. Oh, why didn't they accept it? I think fair play for Newcastle to hold in the ground. The sort of total deal of £15 million is not a fair rate. There's not many English midfielders who have been playing in a squad, let's say, because he hasn't been necessarily a regular, certainly last season, who was top 7 last 3 seasons, scored in the Champions League, scored a brace in the Carabao Cup semi-final. He scored 8 goals the season before, so he has an eye for goal. Last season, almost a write-off in some ways, where he was not really in the team second half of the season, as you say. But he's got a very good CV. Sean Longstaff, 27-year-old, year left on his contract, £15 million. I think that's a good deal for all parties. Like you say, Sean Longstaff's getting his games at a place where he can feel properly valued. Newcastle getting a decent return PSR on a player who ultimately was out of contract this summer to trigger a deal and then have been able to cash in. And now they can reinvest that money, I think. And then Leeds are getting a player, a Premier League proven midfielder, which is sometimes what you need at this level when you're a newly promoted side. You just need a player who will work hard, who knows the level, knows the game, and can maybe pop up with a goal or two. I don't think he's going to transform Leeds and be the key signing that's going to absolutely pull them to Premier League survival. Sean Longstaff's probably a player you could put him in Real Madrid's team, you could put him in Luton Town's team. He probably blends in because he just blends in with the tactics. That's one thing Eddie Howe's always praised. His tactical understanding is second to none, and he's a hard worker. And if he clicks at Leeds quickly, he can be an effective player for them. I would say that's an if as well. Leeds will have to bet him in. He
lets other players around him do the work. He's almost like the facilitator, as I call him. As I say, when he was in that 3-man midfield in the finished Champions League first season, he was that man that just allowed others to do their work, and he was always the hard worker, the man that always pressed, as I say, just really understood tactically what he wanted. And I think that takes a lot of brains for the amount of information that he gets, but he took it on board straight away. So no, as I say, good luck to him. I think it'll be interesting to see how Newcastle reinvest the money now. As I say,
they need a midfielder now, don't they?
They do need a midfielder now. It goes back to what we talked about last week, as the priorities, and the James Trafford deal that's gone quiet again. That could come back into life at any moment. But I don't know. I just do wonder if the priority of the goalkeepers maybe fell down the pecking order a little bit.
The centre back one's gone quiet as well, and that was our priority since last week. So that's something. It's all been striker this week. I think we'll maybe see a bit of movement. Certainly in the goalkeeper situation, we need some sort of update on that, and then also defender and midfielder, there's a spotlight on those as well. But yeah, going on Sean Longstaff, very much an Eddie Howe player. You look at the Eddie Howe players in the squad. Jacob Murphy's another one where they've sort of risen or increased the levels along with the team, and can almost slot into any situation. I'm conscious I've just said Sean Longstaff could play for Real Madrid. I'll retract that comment.
You can, man.
But I'm just
don't retract it, double down.
Don't back down, double down. No, Sean Longstaff, what I mean is he could blend in to almost any team if given the right instructions. What I say, I do think he has limitations, but I do think he has real strengths as well, and Leeds will hopefully benefit from that. I'll wish him the very best. And Newcastle, I think he leaves a hole in the squad, but Newcastle, how do you reinvest that money in terms of a midfielder? Do you go all out and go in the same way they're pursuing Hugo Ekitike? We want a clear upgrade on Sean Longstaff, who maybe comes into the starting 11, or do you go, no, we want a midfield squad player because the midfield is already so strong? You don't want to break the bank, if you like.
I think in terms of a midfield profile now, I think the ideal would be sign someone young, project player, if you like. But I suppose that they've already got one similar in Lewis Miley, but they don't need a starter as such, as long as that midfield 3 stays fit.
Joe Linton's had his injury troubles the past few years. It's back now.
But as I say, targeting players like a striker, for example, it does give Newcastle room to potentially change formation. So maybe that's one avenue as well, where Eddie Howe might go, well, I've lost a midfielder there, but I'm going to go and play 4-4-2 next season, so I don't need another midfielder. But I think based on the 3 that he plays, I think obviously they've got a hole there. How they plug it, again, the list of priorities, I think a striker is we spoke about last week. I've done a U-turn again, but did I see it? No, did I? I did see
you
a striker.
You said defender, striker.
Did I? Well, I'm flipping it again.
Okay.
I think a striker's key. Okay. It's just very difficult to get. And then midfielder. It just depends what direction they go in next season. But again, they've lost. How many midfielders you've got now? You'd have the three with Bruno, Joelin, and Tonali, and then you've got backup as Willock and Lewis Miley. Yeah, it's a tough one because rotation is going to be key next year. It's hard. What vision Eddie Howe is taking the team next season.
That's why pre-season is quite important.
Yeah, I think so.
We'll get a good gauge of just what Eddie Howe's thinking. You can't read much into the results, but you get some sort of gauge of what Eddie Howe's thinking ahead of the new season and what sort of roles he sees players playing. So that'll be an interesting one. And it's interesting just going back to the striker situation. We've been a bit round the houses, but we spoke about a replacement for Callum Wilson being almost, do you get like a project player like Willis Ula? Newcastle have sort of ripped up the rule book and go, no, we want an actual competitor for Alexander Isak, someone who's really going to push him. Which, fair enough, Alexander Isak has been a guaranteed starter. He could have one leg hanging off. He's in the starting 11 as long as he gets the okay to play. So he probably needs a bit of genuine competition as well. So I think the players Newcastle are after, Hugo Ekitike being the main one, but you scratch the surface and look at other players they're having conversations about, the actual Premier League proven top level players. Whether they get them is another story, but the narrative around the striker situation has changed from your Dominic Calvert-Lewins, which again
I wouldn't rule that out.
You never know. If that happens, Newcastle have sort of failed in their genuine transfer pursuits. But it's gone from that where you go, accept that as a Callum Wilson replacement, to no, we want an Alexander Isak challenger. We're raising the levels, which fair play to Newcastle, bit of ambition. Yeah,
I think so as well. And it's take longer term as well, which about Alexander Isak's future. Potentially sign a striker this summer as like a succession plan as well. So if he does go, you've already got a striker at the football club that can step up, and you're not panicking in 12 months' time thinking, who we're going to sign if Alexander Isak goes. So it's interesting time. I think it's good to be having these conversations because, as I said 12 months ago, that the transfer window was dead for Newcastle.
It's tumbleweed, just going around outside.
Whereas now it's firmly back into life. And let's see what the Sean Longstaff sale does. Does it again? You mentioned before that they just use it to sort of pay for Langa's first year, and then it frees them to go and sign somewhere else. Does it give him an extra position to go and target? I don't know. Or does it give him extra money to go and spend it? And Hugo Ekitike, for example, big fee, do you go and then put it towards him? I don't know. It's a lot of moving parts. I think Newcastle will see what's there, see what they can do, and then decide. So stay tuned.
Let's see. So the latest on the Hugo Ekitike situation. Newcastle, I just realised we didn't actually fully address it, was Newcastle had a just below £70 million bid rejected by Frankfurt yesterday. Hugo Ekitike, I think Frankfurt holding out for £86 million.
That's what the value might,
I think he has a release clause around that as well. So we'll wait and see. I don't see Newcastle going that high.
I don't think so, no.
I think they might come back with a higher offer, but I don't see them going 86 million for a player who, let's be honest, very good. He's had one top level season really, and that's last season.
I think Frankfurt go below 86. I think they say 86. I think they'll accept a big fee up front with sort of reasonable add-ons. That would be my take of the deal. But as I say, that happens. It's a real difficult one.
And whether the player accepts it, because we've been here before.
Exactly.
So on that note, we've been the Geordie Journals. Dom Skur, Jordan Cronin. We'll be back, if not beforehand, we'll be back at Celtic Park on...
Yes.
I say back at Celtic Park. It's the first trip to Celtic Park for us two. Have you been before?
No, I've never been. No, I'm looking forward to it.
I think proper pre-season, actually. I liked Rangers a couple of years ago.
Celtic, Rangers, Ibrox is brilliant.
The trips up to Scotland for pre-season, they're good. That's what it's all about.
It's one of our first videos, that.
It was,
we stayed in on a caravan, a camping site.
Aye, go back to there. Those were different times for the Geordie journals. We didn't know what we were doing really. We just sort of waffled on them.
Aye, we're still doing that.
As we're still doing. So yeah, we'll be at in Glasgow on Saturday. Hopefully talking about
Hopefully Newcastle to win.
God. But we'll be able to pick Eddie Howe's brains, see what the summer's been like for him. They're in Austria at the moment. Decent training camp for them there. Bode well for them last time, ahead of the Champions League finishing season. So yeah, we'll see you on Saturday, maybe beforehand if there's something to talk about, which there very well might be given the fluid situation. But thank you for watching. Please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell for all your latest Geordie Journals content. We'll see you on Saturday. Cheers.